Oh, I think it's working. There we go, everybody. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a new show of the Daily Mind podcast. Thank you for joining me this morning. Well, actually, it's afternoon, and whatever time it is over where you are, thanks for joining me either way. Much appreciated. And for those who joined me on the other show yesterday, I appreciate that as well. I know I'm looking a little scruffy. I'm going to get a little fixed up this weekend, get a little shape up, whatever. Thank you for joining me on this Friday afternoon, because where I'm at, it is indeed Friday afternoon, and the weekend is here. And we're already halfway, through the month of May. Before you know it, June is pretty much right there, and it's insane to even think about that. But the year's gone by pretty fast. I guess for some people that's a good thing, and for those others, probably not, depending. All right, anyway, so I know I said in my last post, if you do follow this show, that I was going to do the show a little bit later, but I got off work a little bit early today, and I just wanted to knock the show out. I mean, let's be honest, it's 2:17 in the afternoon in Korea, which means damn near everybody in the U.S. is sleeping. So I don't know who's going to watch this show, and it wouldn't have made that much difference even if I did it later. We'll see. I don't normally do the show this time. It's a very awkward time for me to do the show. If I do a show during the day, it's usually on the weekends, usually in the morning. My morning, your evening. But I just want to knock the show out the way either way, so that I can hurry up and upload it to Spotify and enjoy the rest of my day. Now, tomorrow is my 500th episode of the Daily Mind podcast. I've been doing this since October of 2022, and I am now about to hit 500 episodes, which is a major milestone, considering I didn't know how far this show was going to go, but the fact is that I'm almost at 500 episodes starting tomorrow, which also starts a brand new season, is a monumental feat. Not a lot of people that create podcasts go this far. A lot of people give up quite easily, and they get discouraged because either someone's not listening to the show or they're not reaching out the way they wanted to reach out. These things take time. I tell you, like, my motto, what keeps me going for the show, once again, is that even if only one person listen to this show, because I do have my analytics and whatnot, if one person listens to this show, I'm still going to do a show. It's when people just completely stop listening to the show and it shows in my numbers, I'm going to be like, I'm cutting it. That's it. This show had a good run. I think it ran its course. But there are people that listen to this show. I mean, I'm not getting Joe Rogan's numbers, but I'm getting people listening to the show, and that's a big thing. That's what really matters. But anyway, if you do get a chance to check out this podcast, again, it is on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, primarily Spotify. I have a YouTube channel. I upload episodes when I can, and of course shorts as well. And of course my IG page, the Daily Mind Podcast, I have that as well. So send me a hello, whatever the case is. All right, so this is the 499th episode. Big deal. Today's episode is inspired by a little bit of my brother-in-law. He works for Uber Eats as his gig. You know what I mean? Putting in all those hours, a lot of driving, a lot of hassle, a lot of moving around. And then I think I came across something about Ubers. Now, I did a show a while back. I think even before I went on TikTok. I might even have done a show on Uber. I think I did. I'll be honest. But either way, if I did a show already on Uber, this will be the TikTok version of it, because it was more than likely before I did this TikTok thing. But anyway, tonight I'm going to talk about Uber, all right? Uber drivers. Not Uber Eats. We're talking about people movers, the guys and gals who use their personal car and beat the fuck out of it, transporting people around for an honest day's pay. Because a lot of people, they have Uber as a side hustle, and then you got a very small percentage of people that do Uber for a living, which is hard as fuck when you consider how much Uber drivers sort of make, and then on top of that, how much Uber drivers have to pay in terms of overhead and all this other shit. It's a lot of money. I don't even know how they even see money in their own pockets, but a lot of people do this to live. I got my executive producer, co-host Captain James in the chat. It's been a minute since I've seen them. Again, our schedules are so different. Hit me up with some love and likes. I appreciate it. Share the show. It's been kind of dry in terms of likes and viewers lately, and I always do what I can. I'm not desperate for viewers, all right? If you show up on the show, passing by, say hello, I'm all about it. But if you don't, you don't. But either way, we're going to talk about Uber drivers, a little bit about Uber, the history of Uber, in a sense. I'm not going to get too deep into the history of Uber. And then, of course, I got some stories lined up courtesy of BuzzFeed, some stories, I guess, even from customers too, on their escapades being in the Uber or operating as an Uber. You know, a lot of people like to go out there and pretty much say, oh, Uber's not a real job. Okay, it may not be an ideal real job that you and I may work, a regular brick and mortar 9 to 5 kind of job, but it's still a job. If it's taxing you and it's on your social security number, driving Uber is a job. One thing that it is not is that it is not like a job like you and I or whoever works. You're an independent contractor. You're not an employee with Uber. They made this very clear. Think about it. You're an independent contractor who is contracted by Uber using your own vehicle to drive people around wherever they desire. You make your own money. You make your own schedule. You don't have to wake up butt crack early in the morning or start really, really late. You can start whatever fits in your time. So Uber drivers are independent contractors, but they are employees in their own right. I mean, it's still a job, but it's not an easy job. A lot of people think Ubers make a lot of money. It's a lot of driving. You will have to be and I kind of learned this when I was a Door Dasher. For a little bit, my wife and I were Door Dashers, and we come to learn that even as a Door Dash, especially in Clarksville, Tennessee, very, very competitive market for Door Dashers. You had to get up. Because my other executive producer, Rio, he was a Door Dasher. He put me onto it. And you had to get up early in the morning because you already had people out there Door Dashing already, making that buck. Now, Clarksville is full of fast food restaurants. So there's a lot of opportunity. But when you got all these other people, Clarksville is a very automotive town, city, if you will. You got a lot of competition. So you had to be up crack early in the morning, knocking this shit out. I'm telling you. And even then, it got to a point where it wasn't even worth it. I was just doing it as a little side hustle, right? But it wasn't worth beating the hell out of my car for, But I felt more comfortable driving food around to places than putting people in my car, super random ass people, driving them around. Now, if you lived in Tennessee in the Nashville area, oh, you cooked. You made a lot of money doing Uber, especially when they had concerts, because the Nissan Stadium would host a whole array of concerts and football games, and Nashville was that place to be an Uber. You made a lot of money. I know some people who did Ubers in Nashville, Lyft, and yeah, they made bank. They said they made bank. All right, but we're gonna get into it. We're gonna start off with the Uber fun facts. All right, Uber's been around for a little while. Somebody came up with the bright idea to create a service. One group of people that hates Ubers the most is yellow taxi cab drivers, because unlike yellow taxi cab drivers, Uber drivers are not held to the same standard. They don't have to sit there and pay medallion fees and licensing fees from the taxi limousine commissions. And, they use their own cars. Yellow cabbies, they shell out so much money a year for a medallion. In other words, like a license to operate a yellow cab, especially in New York City. I mean, you can ask any of those drivers out there and they'll tell you it is a very expensive job. It's a very expensive venture to even be a cab driver. Not to mention, just driving in Manhattan in itself is crazy work. But then now they got to compete with Uber, and they're not a big fan of that. But hey, free enterprise. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Them yellow cab drivers, sometimes they charge you way too goddamn much anyway. Sometimes their meters might be rigged. Who knows? Uber offers flat rates depending on where you're going, what kind of vehicle you're using. That kind of deal. I know when I go visit my family in New York and I don't drive, I utilize the Uber to go to the airport and everything else. But yeah, I'm doing a roundtable on Friday, your Friday, which would be my Saturday. That's going to be the 500 episode, Captain James. My 500 episode, I decided to make it into a roundtable. So Friday evening between 5 and 9 is going to be a roundtable. Right now, it's Friday over here. So it's still, I'm pretty sure, Thursday over there. Yeah, I know, 500 episodes is a lot. It's a lot. All right, people. Let's go into the world of Uber. So hop in, fasten your seatbelts. I'm going to go ahead and read some fun facts about Uber. Uber is everywhere. In fact, they're not even just limited to the States. They are overseas too. Okay, you said it's Friday night right now. Is it Friday? Well, it's Friday. Wait. It's Friday night over where you are. That's impossible because it is Friday afternoon where I'm at. So it's got to be Thursday night where you are, or at least like very early Friday morning. Yeah, but that's what I thought it is. Friday morning out there. It is not Friday night. But yeah, I will do a show a roundtable on Friday night, which is my Saturday morning. All right, so a little bit about Uber. Who is Uber? Why are they doing what they do? And more fun facts. Uber is a global ride-hailing service, began as an idea in Paris after the founders Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp struggled to find a taxi. The company has grown to operate in 600 cities across 65 countries, and now also delivers food and other items. Now, Uber's success is partly due to its innovative approach, which included using GPS data to recommend fares and offering a user-friendly mobile app. Very simple. Two Americans go to Paris. Can't catch a cab. Well, first, you're an American. They probably already know that. But here we are. But then they come up with this idea like, yo, fuck taxis. Let's just employ anybody to drive us around. And I got you, Captain James. Yeah, it's pretty late where you are. You should be going to sleep. I will be on Friday night between 5 and 9 Central Standard Time for the 500th episode / roundtable episode. So I'll see you then. All right, some more things about Uber. What else did we learn? Okay, yeah, it started in Paris. Yeah. No discounts for drivers. Even Uber drivers pay full price when they request rides, reflecting the company's lean business model. Because think about it like this. There are thousands of Uber drivers, not millions. If they all got discounted rides, Uber would not make money. They're trying to make money. They ain't trying to lose money. All right, Uber has its own magazine. I didn't know that. I didn't know Uber had its own magazine. And you know what I just found out about Uber? They have an app called Uber Facts. If you're anybody like me who loves useless facts, you can go on Uber Facts, download it, and you can get useless facts, people. And trust me, I didn't even know about this until now when I discovered, doing the research with this episode, that they have useless facts on Uber Facts. I didn't know that, but here we are. All right, anyway. Of course, once again, Captain James, thank you for all the love and support and the likes. I love it. Thank you so much. Anybody else joining the show, welcome to the podcast. Send me a request, send me likes. Tonight, we're doing a show on Uber drivers, the business model, and Uber stories. I mean, because I know everybody passing by in the show at some point or another has taken an Uber, all right? We have. You got to do what you got to do. But if you guys got a Uber story, you can always jump on live and basically tell your Uber story, man. It's gotta be something crazy. Sometimes, you know, especially ladies, you gotta be careful with these Uber drivers. I've heard stories where Uber drivers lock the doors on their female, customers, which is bizarre to me. You know what I mean? You don't know these people. It's just no different from cab drivers, I guess, but they're a lot more regulated. But Uber drivers are just your average person. They ain't no cab driver. They're just somebody with their own POV. And they're just driving people around. You don't even know these people. Drivers are rated. Now, Uber relies heavily. Oh, that's right. Let me go back to the magazine. Uber has a magazine. No, James, that's not the way to go. You don't lock people in your Ubers, man. That's how you go to jail. And your Uber career is over. All right. Uber has its own magazine. The company publishes a magazine called The Ride. A magazine focused on its drivers and their experiences. This is how big Uber is. I didn't even know people still read magazines. But they have their own magazine. All right, drivers are rated. Uber relies heavily on ratings, with drivers' profiles potentially being deactivated if they fall below a certain average. That's also like a cost-cutting measure. You understand what I'm saying? Uber can only pay out but so many people. And again, if you're getting bad ratings because you're a rude driver, or you don't know how to drive, or you come across accidents, or you just got a really creepy car, yo, deactivate it. Uber can fire you. Yes, you can get fired from Uber. Keep those ratings high. If you're out there hustling, driving people around, be on your best behavior, keep your ratings up. Longest Uber ride. Now, the longest Uber ride ever recorded in Uber history was recorded on a 3,631 mile or kilometer trip from North Carolina to California. Crazy work. Listen, I'm not taking an Uber to go from the East Coast to the West Coast unless you're that desperate. Take the fucking plane. Take a Greyhound. Actually, don't even take a Greyhound. Don't. I mean, that's a long-ass drive. I can't imagine how much that shit cost. That person had to have been so desperate to get to California. And you got to think of the money. I really hope the driver got paid buku money. Because you're taking your POV going way the fuck out of California, perhaps a state you've never been to before, with a complete stranger. Now, for all I know, I've seen some movies or two, that passenger could have been on the run. They probably can't fly. They're probably on a no-fly list. Don't know how to travel by Amtrak. Don't know how to travel by Greyhound. They just taking chances in the dark. Hell no. All right, self-driving technology. Uber is actively incorporating self-driving technology into its operations. I think that's a terrible fucking idea. And Captain James, you said Amtrak. I thought you were going to bed, man. I'm glad you're on the show, but Amtrak, don't go everywhere. Now, you know how long it takes an Amtrak train and so many connections to go from New York to California? Brother, you're better off walking. You're better off walking. Amtrak is extremely slow. You know, we have these other countries that have high-speed rail. And meanwhile, in the U.S., we're still bucking old trains on old-ass tracks. Come on now. Uber delivers more than just rides. Of course, they do Uber Eats, and Uber also offers services for delivering other items like clothing or packages. Captain Jason said, what about New Jersey Transit? Brother, you know what's funny? New Jersey Transit just went on strike. As of right now, New Jersey Transit is on strike. Can you imagine the hell it's going to cause on Friday morning? They waited till Friday fucking morning to go on strike, people. They're fucking people up. Now, New Jersey Transit not only covers New Jersey, but it goes to New York. You know, just imagine you take one of those New Jersey Transit buses to go to work in the city. Now you got no bus. Or they're running very limited services. Either way, they're on strike. Well, I think the trains are on strike. The locomotive engineers, the people that operate trains, are on strike. The buses, I think they're still going, but the bus is going to be hell right now. You can't even get to the path. Probably not. Man, no. You probably can get to the path trains. I mean, take a bus or an Uber. All right. Uber drivers get iPhones. To facilitate the ride-hailing service, Uber provides drivers with iPhones with the Uber app pre-installed. How does that shit even work? Do people even steal the phones? Like, I mean, them phones got to be tracked and bugged. So even if you are an Uber driver and Uber gives you a phone and you try to steal the phone, buddy, you're not getting too far. Uber relies on ratings. We've already know that. Uber is committed to sustainability. The company has made a commitment to carbon neutrality by 2040 and aims to offer rides exclusively in electric vehicles by 2030 in most countries. Well, then they must be using their own vehicles because most people that drive Ubers don't even drive electric vehicles. All right, anyway, so I'm going to read some more fun facts if I can find some. Now, 12 lesser known Uber facts about Uber. All right. Now, some of these might be repeated from the other source I've read it on. This is according to Kick-Ass Facts. Fact Encyclopedia gives 12 lesser known facts about the company Uber. All right. Uber was founded in Paris. We know that. Uber is available in more than 65 countries. Got that. Self-driving technology. Got it. Popular food delivery services. Give me something I already know. Oh, yeah. Remember that story I said where the guy went from North Carolina to California? It's 2,256 miles. I wasn't trying to calculate it or convert it to miles, but in this article, it did that. But to read more of that, the ride in question, that Uber ride that went from North Carolina to California cost $5,500. Man, it said, here's the funny part about it. The ride cost $5,500, which Mr. Beast paid and tipped the driver another $5,000. The second longest Uber ride record is held by Brent Pfeiffer and his friends who drove from Dallas to Nashville, Tennessee in 2018. This trip was 680 miles. That's crazy work. Now, Captain James, he said, yeah, I think it's more popular than Lyft. Yes, absolutely. Here's the funny part, though. Way before you showed up to the unit at the time, we had a soldier who was on his way out. He drove for Lyft. He had a Dodge. What was the vehicle? He had Dodge Journey. Well over 200,000 miles. He's long out the Army. He had a Dodge Journey, and he'll show up to work with the Lyft thing still on his cars. That was like his hustle. And in fact, there's quite a few people, I think, still where you are that drives Uber. I know one of them, and you work with one of them. All right, so that is a lot. Now, number 6, here's another fact, lesser known fact about Uber. Uber has been in constant battle with black taxi cabs in London. What country has Uber not been in a battle with? New York City especially. Any city that has taxi cabs hates Ubers. because they're not held to the same financial standard and they're taking business. That's what it really boils down to. Uber drivers taking away business of yellow taxis. Black taxi cabs have dominated the private transportation industry for years in London. However, the advent of Uber has significantly threatened their business. Now, even though Uber has invited black taxi cabs to sign up to their services on the app, most drivers have declined this offer. Yeah, because they probably make more money driving the black cabs. They're probably unionized. One thing about Uber is that there's no union. There's no protection. Simply because Uber is your contractor. You're what they consider a self-employed individual. There's no union to protect. Now, I've heard that at some point Uber was trying to unionize. Not going to happen. I'm telling you right now. So, of course, to add more to this, in May of last year, black taxi cabs filed a £250 million legal case disputing the entry of Uber in London taxi market. However, this wasn't the first time the two have been at loggerheads. One time, black cab drivers, and when I say black cab drivers, I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about those fancy-looking black cabs. If you've ever been to London, I've been there. I've rode in one of these cabs. That's their yellow cabs, all right? So when I say black cab drivers, I ain't talking about people like me. But anyway, black cab drivers protested in central London, bringing the transportation system to a standstill. Now, interestingly, this move results in a counter effect, leading to a massive increase in Uber app installations and a decline in black cab orders. Wow. Reverse Uno. All right, Captain James, I know you're going to bed for real. I definitely will see you later on tonight on the round table. But just imagine, I guess most Londoners, especially younger people, because I'm pretty sure the younger people were siding more with Uber and were like, yo, fuck the taxi cabs. We support Uber. Uber's probably cheaper. It's much more friendly. The black cab drivers, they're probably a much more older group of individuals, perhaps. I forgot what my cab driver looked like when I went out there because that was like over 5 years ago. But there it is. All right, number 7, Uber has reduced drunk driving deaths in the U.S. Yes, because Uber has special programs too for those who are too intoxicated to drive. So you always hear it, yo, let me call you an Uber. I don't think you can drive. Give me your keys. I'll call you an Uber. Yes, Uber has been pretty effective in that. Unfortunately, though, we still got drunk drivers. China Uber drivers once used pictures of ghosts as profile pictures to scare clients. Of course, the Chinese would do some weird shit like that. So it says one of China's most common Uber scams entailed using ghost pictures as drivers' profile pictures. This would scare the clients, make them cancel their rides, and pay cancellation fees. Wow. While this was a popular trend before 2016, Uber found a way to deal with it, and it's no longer an issue. Wow. Scamming, scheming. And Uber was once banned in Finland. Of all places, why would it be banned in Finland? Well, let's find out. Finland has one of the strictest transportation laws in the world. To put this into perspective, the country's authorities once banned Uber from operating there for a little while, just a little while. The law's implementation was so serious that motorists caught working with Uber would be fined. To evade police detection, they would ask passengers to sit at the front and pretend they are friends. Fortunately, the Uber service was relaunched in 2018. But even though it doesn't go into complete detail, why would Finland ban Uber? And why is Finland a country with such strict transportation laws in Europe? That's something I gotta look more into. And then, of course, the first CEO of Uber was an unpaid intern. Sometimes that's how it's gotta be. Sometimes you gotta do shit for free to get paid. Ryan Graves is one of the few to ever transition from intern to CEO without climbing a long corporate ladder. Now, before joining Uber, Ryan worked as an unpaid intern at Foursquare, which is now Swarm. He got the job by simply replying to a tweet uploaded by the co-founder Travis Kalanick, who was looking for a product manager. Just imagine you went from intern to CEO without even having to get promoted laterally. You just went straight there. That's dope. All right, I got 2 more facts, I guess you could say. Uber increases traffic congestion. Yes, because now you got more people on the road bringing people around in the city. That's what we thought we had public transportation to ease that and yellow cabs, but no. Uber's increased traffic. Now, it says in both developed and developing countries, Many people are signing up as Uber drivers to make an extra buck. Now, even though this creates employment opportunities, it has a ripple effect in increasing traffic congestion. The more Uber drivers on the road, the longer traffic lines are. This is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier. Now, I was a DoorDasher for a couple of months, few months, not that long, right? When DoorDash was coming about and you know, the economy was getting a little crazy, people needed extra money. When you couple that with Clarksville, ever increasing population, brand new businesses being built, before you know it, the streets are fucking crowded. In the 3 years that I was stationed at Fort Campbell, Clarksville population blew up exponentially. I'm talking out of nowhere. Roads that were easy to navigate, easy to get to work to, were always in traffic jams. All these new businesses popping up. I heard a whole bunch of new fucking car washes is popping up. When you put all that, and then Uber drivers trying to make a quick buck, and then you got DoorDashers, the traffic is insane. That's another reason why I quit. It got to a point where the market in Clarksville for DoorDashing was just getting a little too much. It was not worth beating my car up for. So therefore, I was like, yeah, we quit. My wife and I did that for a while.
Hi, honey, I'm home. I used the car for $10.86.
Okay, my wife just got home from the supermarket. Yeah. All right, so, and then the last fact that they have here is Uber is just a middleman. Uber doesn't own any cars. Instead, it acts as a middleman between people who need rides. So Uber is nothing more than a big dispatcher, right? Remember what I said? Ooh, can I get one? Please? So my wife bought...
Do you want that one, or do you want this one?
Let's see what we got. I'll take that one.
Okay, we have one more.
My wife got me Cheez-Its. She knows I love these things. These things are... Thank you.
That's where I need the card for.
Cheez-Its are dangerous work, people. Very addictive. But yeah, Uber works as a taxi dispatcher. They don't own any cars. What they do is, you need a ride, you contact Uber, they contact the driver, and that's it. Just kind of like exactly how a yellow taxi would work. It's basically the middleman, right? They don't own shit. They just make the fees. They make money off the fees. All right, Uber doesn't own any cars. Instead, it acts as a middleman between people who need rides and commercial drivers who offer private transportation. However, to be part of the drivers in Uber system, one must undergo several checks to ascertain their legitimacy. It used to be very easy to become an Uber driver, but because of so many issues and legal issues and people getting assaulted, they're a little bit more rigorous, apparently, in their application process, which they should be. And this is what taxi drivers hated, was that people could just get in their own car and steal their fares without any sort of like oversight. You know, they're not paying medallion fees, they're getting away with shit that yellow cab drivers can't get away with, and they hated that shit. They hate Ubers. But it's free enterprise, it's another mode of transportation for those in the city, and they just gotta live with it. You gotta bygones be bygones type shit. You know, can't beat them, join them. You understand what I'm saying? Cab drivers, they can sit there and become Ubers, but then you lose that union, you lose whatever little fucking extra perks you get, so they don't do it. All right, so, don't mind me, I got cheese into my mouth, pause. All right, so, enough of the facts, right? Let me just do a time check real quick. I'm a half hour in, so that's perfect. All right. My favorite, excuse me. My favorite part of the show, it's story time. Typically, I always go on BuzzFeed for some inspiration because they have some crazy ass stories, which some of the stories come from Reddit. Anyway, I got a couple of articles of stories being shared. I already just pulled up one. This was written on February of 2021. Uber and Lyft drivers. They're going to include Lyft drivers in it too because they ain't no different. That's why it makes no sense trying to make a Lyft episode when it's just like the Uber. Anyway, Uber and Lyft drivers are sharing their passenger horror stories, and I give these passengers a solid 0-star rating. Yeah, I'm telling you, Uber drivers, it works both ways. You don't know who the fuck you're letting in your car. A lot of people are demanding. Like, remember that one big chick, the overweight chick? Ooh.
How many you want?
2.
2?
Yep, my wife's making tacos. Bueno. All right, so remember that big chick, really oversized chick that ordered a Lyft or Uber and she couldn't fit in it? She tried to fit in it and the driver was like, yo, I just got new shocks, I just got new brakes, you can't get in this car. She clearly could not fit in this car, and I'm not even joking. She even tried to sue Uber or whoever it was, Uber or Lyft. Either way, she tried to sue the company, got tossed the fuck out. pack it up. She got tossed out. You knew damn well you could not fit in that car. You know, you can order different size vehicles for different things. And maybe you don't want to sit in a small car. Maybe you got some shit you're bringing home with you. You might need an SUV. She could have easily ordered an SUV. I think she just did that for clout. And it blew up in her face. Now you don't even hear about her even trying to do it. Just damn shame. Damn shame. All right, so we're going to read some stories. Well, I'm going to read some stories. You're going to listen. Not forcing you to, but you know, you can listen. But also too, if you have any crazy Uber stories, whether you're a driver or a passenger, you're passing by the chat, or you just want to go live and tell me your Uber story, feel free. I'll invite you onto the show. And again, this show goes on Spotify, so if you want to listen to yourself on some podcast, you can, because exactly once I'm done with this show, the audio gets uploaded to Spotify. All right, so now, there's a disclaimer saying we can't 100% confirm all these stories, but these people are supposedly speaking from their own experience as alleged former employees. I'm pretty sure these stories are 100% true. If it's Uber, 100% true. Now, here's the first story, right? Now, they went around, they asked Uber and Lyft drivers some of the worst passengers they had. I'm going to be reading stories, people. Feel free to chime in. All right, so I shouldn't be eating on the show because it's annoying. Anyway, so first story, people. I promise I won't eat no more Cheez-Its. Bad man. All right, I once had a passenger immediately ask me if I used perfume when they got into my car. I said no. But I had an air freshener that I'd be happy to put away if it bothered them. The passenger made me sit with the windows down to air out the car for 20 minutes. Just imagine a passenger is getting in your car. They called you, they called Uber. You got dispatched. Yes, soft.
How many?
Oh, she's asking me, hold on 1 second. Can I get one?
One? Are you sure?
Two.
Two? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, she's making tacos. She's trying to get me to decide what shell to use. So this person gets into the car. It's a overwhelming aroma of perfume, perhaps, or air freshener. And they were like, yo, I can't be in this car. Can you just wait 20 minutes? Meanwhile, you could have already driven, dropped this person off and pick up another fare. This person wanted the driver to air out the car. First of all, if it is indeed perfume, don't put so much perfume on. There are people that drown themselves in perfume to a point where it's nauseating to do that. If you don't wash your ass, especially people that put so much perfume and cologne on and don't wash up, wild work. Wild work. You should be ashamed of yourself. There is more to this story, of course. Then they proceeded to apply copious amounts of essential oils all over themselves to calm them from the smell of the perfume. The essential oil smell was far stronger, gave me a headache, and lingered in my car for 2 days. So this motherfucker, this passenger, just took, they were like, yo, your aroma in your car is too strong. Air it out. Then proceeded to put whatever fucking essential oil on it, which is stronger. And then leave the smell in their car. And that's another thing. Like, it's one thing doing Uber Eats and DoorDash and your car smell like various foods. But when you got people you're driving around with various smells, that's going to be hard to get out of your car. That's why, if not one of the main reasons why, I've never done Uber. That's disgusting. All right, number 2. Next story here. We're in Children of the Corn territory, and I legit am getting nervous. Now, we turn down this back row, and I hear her making sounds. You know, I guess this is the driver. Thinking she wants to talk. Nope, she vomits all over my cloth seats. Oh, no, this ain't the driver, it's the passenger. All right? So she vomits all over my cloth seats in the back while she's asleep and wakes herself up crying. So it sounds like to me, this driver picked up some really drunk chick, passed the fuck out. She wakes up on her own vomit. It's all over his car. That's another reason why I would not do Uber, especially in areas that like are club heavy. People coming into your car drinking, drunk. You gotta clean that shit up. Uber does not pay for you to clean your car. That is the thing that sucks about that. You are at your own risk. Now, there are some people that safeguard their car, put plastics or whatever the case is. But If somebody throws up in your car, Uber does not pay for that. You are on your own, buddy. It says there's more to it. It was my first night driving. I was clearly underprepared. No phone charger and only half a tank of gas. Now around 4 a.m., I decided to do one more ride. At the time when you accepted a ride, it didn't tell you how far away it was or a destination until you accepted it. So I get a request and accept it. Now it turns out that I was around 20 miles north of where I live. So I got there and a guy had requested it for his drunk lady friend whose house was another 45 minutes north. But I decided to take the girl home and she fell asleep 10 minutes into the drive. Well, she lived in the middle of nowhere and was losing bars on my phone. After she threw up, I slammed on my brakes because I was underprepared for this. The only thing in my car to clean up was some Chipotle napkins and Febreze. Buddy, you're not cleaning up vomit with that shit. But he did his best. So he dropped off at her home and realized I had only 15 miles till empty of gas. No idea where I was in Ohio and my phone was dead. I did make it home though, and Uber paid me the extra $150 on the spot for cleaning fees. I cleaned it myself for $15. I take that back. Earlier I said that Uber does not give you money for cleaning fees. Apparently they hooked this dude up. Good on them. But I can't imagine how much Uber is shelving out on cleaning fees. You know, kids in the car spilling shit, people in the car spilling shit, people throwing up. I can't imagine how much money is being spent on that. But whatever, right? All right, so is there more to the story? No, we got a new story. See, I wasn't supposed to eat cheeses. I'm eating them again. But to be fair, that one was sitting on top of the little thing. I didn't want it sitting out like that. Whatever. All right, I got another story for you guys. All right, people passing by in the chat, feel free to chime in. I know it's late where you are, but if I see your name passing on there, shouldn't you be asleep? You should at least say hi. All right. Next story. I got to the drop-off address, and he said it wasn't where he lived. He couldn't communicate an address because he was so drunk. So he told me to turn on certain streets, but we were going clearly in circles. We approached the liquor store and he told me to stop so he could go in. So he stayed in the car for 5 minutes with his hand in his pocket and told me I was going to be a good boy and wait for him. Fuck no. I ain't waiting for you. In fact, go fuck yourself. You ain't gonna sit there. First of all, you're already drunk and you decide to go to a liquor store. Then you're gonna tell me, hey, be a good boy and wait for me. No, you're fucked, buddy. You're fucked. I'm not gonna be a good boy and wait for you. Anyway, then he threatened me and left his food in the car. Dumbass. It says this guy was super drunk and a restaurant manager had called a lift for him because they had kicked him out. Never do this. The guy sat in the front seat and once we started driving, he started eating his messy leftovers and I told him to hold off until I dropped them off. And he yelled at me and told me to fuck off. He was big and very aggressive. What the fuck does that mean? Big and aggressive. It's your car. Anyway, as soon as he walked inside that store, I sped the fuck out of there. Keep in mind, this was on the restaurant's manager's Lyft account and I had no idea who this guy was. Listen, this ain't the safest fucking occupation in the world. Especially if you're driving in areas past midnight. I'm telling you right now, if you don't feel safe, go with your gut instinct. Because that could have ended pretty bad. I think he did the right thing. I think him driving off, I'll take that L. I would be like, yo, I didn't feel safe. My vehicle, I felt was you know, I would have taken that L. I don't care how much I would have lost. I would have taken that. All right, next story. I had one incredibly drunk guy tell me on the way to the strip club, mind you, about how he's retiring super early and all he's gonna do is make and sell sausage. What the fuck? Who retires and decides to just go into the sausage business? I'm just gonna sell sausage. This person. Anyway, he's so excited, telling me about all the tools and meats he has. Hey, yo. And I was like, oh, that's great, good for you. Now, about a minute of silence, he says in the most serious voice, mind you, over this fucking sausage shit, he says, you should never trust someone who knows how to make sausage. You might disappear. Nah. This man is grinding up people. This dude is straight mafia, grinding people into sausages. There's more. The driver said that my heart sank because I was sure that I was about to be made into a sausage. Luckily, he did not make me into a sausage. He actually tipped me $100 in cash for the 20-minute drive to the titty shack. Yo, can you imagine your heart racing? This man is talking about retiring, making sausages, and telling you all the while to not trust someone that knows how to make a sausage. This is the type of people who jump in your Ubers, man. This is scary work. Anyway, next story. Pre-COVID, my dad would drive for Uber late at night. Now, one night he picks up a girl who's drunk, but it just seemed like a normal ride. Now, after a while, she calmly asked him to pull over. He's thinking she's gonna puke, so he does pull over. Suddenly, she gets out and starts running down the street screaming that someone is trying to kidnap her. No, that is not funny. Listen, you would have to go through hell and high water to prove you're not kidnapping this girl. But it's easy, right? You could just look at your phone. Hey, this woman is delusional. She called this Uber. This is her right here on the phone. I'm not kidnapping this bitch. Anyway, she calls the cops, and my dad does as well, to explain the situation and that he was just her Uber driver. The cops find her a few streets down and calm her down. Afterward, they ask him if he still wants to take her home, to which he obviously said no. No. If you would have asked me, do I still want to take this drunk woman home? No. You're the police. Put her in the back of your fucking car and take her home, because I'm not doing that. That woman had the audacity to call the police on me, and all she did, like, maybe she didn't call the Uber. Maybe she was, okay, let's just say for the sake of argument, this woman was passed out and her friends called the Uber. Throw her ass in the Uber. She wakes up, has no idea who this guy is, driving her around, no fucking clue. Okay, I give her that. But after all that, police, cops, officers, you guys can take her home. Throw her in the back of your fucking car in the K9 unit with the dog. I don't care. Take her home. I'm not dealing with that. May have not been completely her fault, but her friend set up for the fail. There's more to this story, though, of course. Goes on to say, well, the next night after all that bullshit happened, he said the next night he picks up a few ladies going to a bar, and then they ask him to tell them wild stories. So he goes, well, here's one that actually happened. So he's telling these ladies a story about what recently happened, which I believe is that event yesterday, and he tells them everything. The girls started laughing and go, we just heard this story from our friend. She was the girl. It's a small fucking world. That's wild. So those girls that he picked up the next day to tell the story to, those were the same girls that threw the drunk chick in the Uber that called the police on him. This had to have been somewhere in a small town, because what are the chances of this happening in a big city? Small town people, man. Small fucking town people. Apparently she was quite embarrassed the next day, but it was pretty funny to have the same Uber driver. My dad has some interesting stories, but they were definitely the most ridiculous. People, if you got any Uber stories in the chat, feel free to jump on. Tell me some of your Uber stories, whether you're a driver or you're a passenger. I would love to hear what Uber stories you have, all right? I'm going to send my hellos and invites, and anybody's more than welcome to join this podcast, all right? Next story. I gotta make sure I hit an hour, by the way. Every show is an hour. So that is what I need to do. I got 15 minutes, which is perfect time, because I could go have my tacos. Next story right here. I get a request to go to a swanky apartment complex. This is another driver. Show up to the pin and see no one there. Then I get a call from an unknown number. I answer and hear these two girls bawling, like straight crying. They're trapped in the parking garage and can't get out because it's enclosed by a 12-foot tall gate. You need a code to open it, but the guy they were hanging with wouldn't give it to them. This is those, tipsy shenanigan nights, I guess you could say. There's more. I get out of my car and they are legit reaching for me through the gate, crying for me to help them. I realized that there was an outside part of the garage that was maybe 6 feet tall. So I told them to climb it, and I would catch them. Mind you, I'm a girl too, but I played basketball in college and was still pretty fit. So they climbed the wall and jumped. I caught them both and took them home. Wow. That could have been a kidnapping. There's been some Uber drivers that have been hailed as heroes for helping people in potential kidnappings. But then again, there are some Uber drivers that actually did kidnap people. I mean, like I said, this shit cuts both ways. Next story. One from another driver. Once a man in his 40s got in my car and immediately made a disgusted face. I asked him if everything was okay. He told me to get him another Uber because I was a woman and he didn't trust me to not get in a car accident. Now, she said that I've been driving for over 6 years without any marks on my license. Needless to say, I didn't give him that ride. This man just straight discriminated, like, oh man, I'm not gonna let you drive. You're a woman. Women can't drive. You know, now when you order a Uber, you can see who the driver is, which I guess for safety, you can see the driver, the vehicle, and their license plate. Very, very big deal. But this was probably, like I said, this was it had to have been a while ago, perhaps. But just imagine you're a female Uber driver just trying to make a little money, and guy gets in, he's like, oh, you're a woman. I want somebody else. Then you can sit there and wait because you might be the only Uber driving around. This motherfucker ain't in the rush to get anywhere, obviously. So I'll be like, all right, bye, fuck you. I'll get somebody else. All right, next story. I was having trouble getting to the pickup destination because of a car accident. As I got closer, I learned that the pickup location was the accident. The rider came stumbling to my car and stated that he'd just been hit by a car while riding a bike. The drop-off destination was the hospital. Only in America do we take Ubers instead of ambulances to the hospital. People, this is a true fucking story. There are people that are willing to skirt around ambulance, hospital bills, and take an Uber. Now, of course, medical professionals and shit strive, like they encourage people, don't do this. That's because they're trying to make money. You have to understand, if I learned anything from watching the TV show The Resident, a hospital is literally a business. They don't have patients that come to the hospital via ambulance. They don't make money. So of course, medical professionals and shit are gonna tell you, don't take an Uber to get to the hospital. But then again, you gotta think too, the reason why ambulance, rides are expensive because they have life-saving medical equipment in there to keep you alive just enough to get to the hospital. It's expensive to drive. It's a big ass truck, operation costs, insurance, all that shit. You gotta pay the drivers, all right? That's why it's so expensive, but it shouldn't be that expensive, right? But that's why people go into Ubers to the hospital. Now, I will say this. If you got a nasty gash on your arm, I'm not a medical health professional. You probably shouldn't have to call an ambulance for something like that. But if you've been shot, do not take an Uber. All right, an Uber is not gonna save your life. Number one, you're gonna mess up that driver's vehicle, and there's no life-saving equipment. Hell, your driver might not even know how to speak English. You're dead, buddy. Shit like that, serious injuries. Listen, I get it. Ambulance is too expensive, but you might want to opt to go take that fucking ambulance ride, because that's crazy. But there are a lot of people that do this, and it's a sad reality of our healthcare system and the racket behind it. But that's another episode for another time. All right, next story. I picked up a passenger at noon who was still drunk from the night before. Uneventful ride. Now, but as soon as we stopped at his drop-off, he vomited all over the backseat and floor of my brand new Camry. He was meeting a friend for cocktails before a flight. He talked the whole ride about how he makes 6 figures and was starting a new position overseas. He rated me 3 stars and didn't tip. So this motherfucker threw up in this man's brand new car, talked about how much money he made, didn't even leave a tip, and 3 stars. First of all, my question is this. Why are you Ubering in a brand new car in the first place? Now, I get it, you're supposed to break the car in, right? What better way to do it? But I just if I bought a brand new car, do you honestly think I'm going to risk fucking this car up brand new on Uber drivers? I don't know what the financial situation is. If you can buy a brand new car, you shouldn't probably be Ubering. Or maybe you just want to make the little extra money. I don't know, I'm not here to judge. But this is diabolical work. Dude throws up in the dude's brand new Uber Camry, talks about how much money he makes, and all these business trips and ventures, and leaves 3 stars and no tip. For somebody who makes 6 figures and you don't tip is diabolical work. You should be ashamed of yourself all the way around. All right, next story. I picked up this guy who was drunk and he asked me to take him to his bar. It was the bar he had just come out of. Wow. That's how you know he's drunk. You know what I would have did? As dishonest as this might fucking be, the guy calls from the bar, hey, take him to a bar, and it's the same bar he came out with. I would have driven him around the corner maybe 5-10 times and down the block, dropped them right back off at the same bar, and made my money. You think I'm playing? I'm not playing. All right, so it's pretty serious. All right, next story. I once was driving a Middle Eastern man. Oh God, I kind of see where this is going. I once was driving a Middle Eastern man to the airport, and a white man drove up next to us yelling derogatory things to him. He yelled at him, quote unquote, "This ain't me." He yelled, "Go back to your country," and drove in front of me, then slammed on his brakes. I was shocked that I'm a black woman, and I apologized to him profusely. People, whatever your beliefs are, don't put that shit on the road, because all this would have done was create an accident. This was an accident waiting to happen. Don't do shit like this. You got these negative thoughts and racial thoughts. Keep that shit to yourself. Welcome to America. You think you're the only person here? Everybody's here. Keep that shit to yourself. All right, and next story. I think this is the last one on this particular list because I got about, let's see how much I got left. I got 9 minutes. I might even be able to read some more stories after this, just to pass the 1 hour threshold. And the last story on this article about crazy Uber drivers. And all right, it starts off as, and I drove for Lyft and picked up a guy getting off work. A liquor store was across the street from his job, so he asked me to stop there first. He goes in and then comes back, and I take him to his apartment. He reaches in his bag from the liquor store and hands me a bottle of Glenlivet. Sorry, but I forgot to tip you on the app. Here you go. He became a regular after that, but he never tipped me with liquids ever again. That's cool. The guy totally forgot to tip. He went to the liquor store, got him some really good liquor, and was like, yo, take this. You know, I think Uber drivers don't always get regular cash tips. They get other gifts too. Now, I don't know what the policy is of accepting gifts, but there shouldn't really be a policy on it. You're your own independent contractor in your own car. You're not in a company car taking gifts. Maybe yellow cab drivers, maybe the rules are different, but let's be honest. If I was a yellow cab driver and somebody gave me a gift, do you think the company gonna find out? No, they're not gonna find out shit. That's my gift. Sorry, that's my gift. All right, so I think while I got a little bit of time, I'm gonna go pull up another set of stories real quick, just to kill that 1 hour time, because I got about a few minutes. All right, let's see what else other stories we got real quick, courtesy. Oh, you know what? I think I should read this part. 15 Uber drivers' secrets and stories. Yeah, let's read that, because I'm pretty sure Uber drivers have some sort of hack to shit. This article was written on December of 2022, courtesy of BuzzFeed, and published by written by Sid Robinson. All right, she wrote this story a little while ago. All right, so first story, quite of a bit, but I'm just gonna get through this as fast as possible, just so that I can reach that 1 hour. All right, first story on this new article, Uber drivers and secrets and stories. Secrets and stories. I once picked up a sweet woman from a bar on Wednesday night. She was absolutely hammered, and it was about 10 p.m. She got into my car and apologized for being so drunk. She politely asked if we could just drive around for a little while with the windows down. I was prepping for a cleaning fee, trying to drive and pull a vomit bag out of the glove box, but no, she just did that airport thing with one hand on the back seat window, and she asked me if I ever thought about dying. Whoa. To which I replied, yeah, I guess so. This is getting deep. That's when she told me she had cancer. It was in her brain and it was too far gone to consider chemo. Now I remember my heart just pounding. She told me she was dying and that she was going to be okay. Tonight she was celebrating with her friends who threw her a going away party. She told them she was taking a position abroad. I just didn't tell them that the abroad was heaven. That's deep. That is deep. Just to think that, this is why I encourage, on a day-to-day, be kind to people sometimes, because you really never know what the fuck people are going through. The people you work with, they might smile in your face. If I learned anything about Robin Williams, he wore 2 masks. He smiled in front of the screen, in front of the camera, but when he went home, that mask came off. It went from this to that. So in this case, that could have been the last time he seen that woman and the last time she ever took an Uber. And, he could have been an asshole, whatever, and said some crazy words to her to where that would have been the worst thing, the last thing she would have ever heard was something so rude. But no, it'd be like that. It's crazy to even think about that. Now, he said, Jesus Christ, I turned off my app and cried my ass all the way home. Honestly, I wouldn't even know how to feel about that. You're literally giving someone their last ride. and they confided in you. See, that's one thing I noticed about taxi cab drivers, Uber drivers. They're like rolling therapists. You don't know who's going to get into your vehicle and just unload their entire life story on you. Even me, like for some reason, my family, my dad, my aunt, and me, we are like unlicensed therapists. I get people that come out of nowhere. I don't know if I'm just a trusting face or a trusting aura. And they'll come out of nowhere and they would just unleash their whole life story on it. Now, do I ignore it? No. Because I love listening to people talk. This is why I'm trying to get you guys on the fucking show to talk, because you guys ain't talking. I'm doing all the talking. I'm joking. But anyway, I listen to every word. There's listening and then there's active listening. You know, people, I think nowadays we have such short attention spans that when people talk to us, we just kind of doing this nodding and say a couple of little words. And then there's active listening where you are listening and you are talking at the same time. You are responding. You're being empathetic. You're being sympathetic. That's active listening. A lot of people don't know how to be active listeners. People just want to listen. Just to be like, oh, that's crazy. Damn, that's wild. If you are telling somebody something and all they're telling you is that's crazy, that's wild, they're not listening to you. They're not. All right, this next story. Hopefully this one is not as sad. I picked up this young, overly affectionate couple that spent their entire trip making out in my back seat and telling each other that they loved each other. Cute, right? Of course. I dropped off the couple and head on my way to pick up my next fare, but then I heard a cell phone ring in my back seat. I realized it's my previous ride and picked up the phone to let them know I have it and I'll come back to drop it off. It turns out, though, it was the guy's wife phoning to check in on him while he was on a business trip, which he thoroughly enjoyed with his mistress. Ooh, that's wild work. That's wild work. That's some. Hey, listen, I'm an Uber driver. It's all confidentiality. If I was that type of grimy person, I would pick up the phone and be like, yeah, I have your husband's phone. He just left with some woman. End of story, but that ain't me. I wouldn't do that. All right, next story. One time I was driving a dude for a bit of a long trip. He wasn't hammered, but was definitely a bit drunk. It was late and he must have been feeling a bit down, so he confided in me and asked me for some advice. He told me he was madly in love with his fiance's best friend and that he couldn't back out now. Buddy, you can back out. He'd been with this woman for 4 years and engaged for 1 and set to be married in a few months. It was pretty sad to hear because it wasn't just your average story. It was filled with a lot of subtle emotional and mental anguish. Now, the guy went through about 5 years of ups and downs with his fiance and found an innocent friend and comfort in the fiance's best friend. And after a few years, he developed feelings and it was just downhill from there. Can you imagine your best friend liking your fiance? Let me ask you guys something, for whoever's passing by on the show. If you were engaged and you found out your best friend was somehow madly deep in feelings for your fiance, how would you take that? What would be your approach, man? Like, it's like, okay, you find out your best friend loves your fiance, right? Now, you don't suspect your fiance of doing anything, but your best friend is just madly in love with your fiance. What do? You know what I mean? And like I said, Uber drivers and cab drivers are rolling therapists. It's like being a bartender. Bartenders hear all types of fucking stories. In fact, that is an episode in itself, bartenders. Because bartenders hear it all, they see it all. But being a bartender is a very high risk occupation. You may not see it, but they have to endure a lot of shit. That needs to be an episode in itself. Ooh, there's more to that story though that I thought was done. I felt bad for the guy because he seemed like he was truly in love with his fiance too. Although he had strong feelings for this friend, he knew that going through with the marriage meant a lifetime of being around the friend and suppressing feelings, but also breaking it off meant that he lost the woman of his dreams. He seemed like a genuinely nice guy, and I hope he's doing okay. Nah, buddy, I don't think he's doing okay at all. It doesn't even sound like he's doing okay. The dude's gonna be obsessed with this shit forever. All right, next story. I'm breezing through as much as possible because I think I might have already hit the 1 hour mark. So maybe I should just kind of, oh yeah, I got like 20 seconds. Oof, my nose is itching. I'm sorry, I'm not sitting here doing illegal things. My nose is itching because the fucking allergies, man. They're really bad where I'm at. All right, this next story. I drove for Uber one night only, sorry. It was going pretty tame until I picked up these two guys. Now, as soon as we got on the freeway, the guy in the passenger seat started asking about Uber driving and things got dark. After a few minutes, he started saying stuff like, what would you do if someone just grabbed the steering wheel and ran the car into the median? And have you ever thought about what would happen if someone in the back seat tried to strangle you while you were driving? So I got a little freaked out, but the one guy just kept at it, and I never drove Uber again. These are two guys. There's a guy behind him in the passenger seat in the back, and a guy on the right. He's asking questions where there's a likely chance that this scenario could happen, because there's indeed a guy in the back that can choke him out, and there's the guy in the front passenger seat that can very much just take the steering wheel and crash that motherfucker. He said he never worked for Uber again. I don't blame you. I told you, people that get in these cars, you don't know them from Adam. All right, next story. Actually, I'm gonna skip this one. I'm trying to. Oh God, these are some long ass stories, buddy. All right, I'll take this one. This one ain't as long. All right. One time, I picked up this woman who was carrying what looked like a tackle box. Now she was dressed somewhat revealing. We started the trip, and she was telling me that she was on her way to do makeup for one of her friends. And her phone rang. Now she answered the call, and it started off pretty standard, right? So I wasn't really paying attention. Now suddenly I just heard, "Girl, what you worried about? You have a great looking clit." Oh, whoa, what the fuck? Yo, just imagine you heard that. You're driving, and you hear this woman on the phone talking to her friend like, "Oh, what are you worried about? You know, it could be anything. Oh no, your clit looks fine. What are you worrying about? What the fuck?" There's more though. There's more. She continued, "No, Derek is super sweet. It'll be fun, I promise." "No, girl, he's just going to come through the doors. Yes, I'll be there. I'll be outside the doors as one of his topless guards. Anyway, he's going to pan through the doors and focus in on you in bed. Just start playing with yourself. Nothing you haven't done before. And yes, after a few minutes of doing that, you call for the guards and I come in and we fuck. Yes, I bought the strap on. It's in the makeup box." This driver is hearing all this from this woman who's on the phone, and all this is transpiring, and his poor ears are hearing all this. And that's the story of someone planning their porno during an, ooh, can't say that. Planning their video during an Uber ride. Ooh, gotta be careful. That one kind of slipped out. I don't need any warnings and shit, all right? All right, next story. Damn, that one slipped out. Let me say, I'm gonna try to send some invites if you guys choose to join the show. We're talking about Uber stories from Uber drivers and passengers. If you do have a story of your own, you feel free to join on the live and tell me your story. All right. Ooh, hopefully I don't get in trouble for that one. All right, this next one. I picked up a woman to take her straight from work to the hospital to see her dad. Her mom had called her work to let her off early because it was serious. Now, her dad had cancer, right? I dropped her off and was like, "God, I hate this job because I never know how her night ended." Wrong. The next night, I'm taking people home from bars, and her two guy friends took her out to drinks because her dad had died. Right? Now they were being drunk idiots, so when I took them to get pizza, she came outside and we talked about it a little. That was probably the only ride where I felt I had a positive impact on someone's life beyond getting them safely home. Who said every story has a bad ending? All right, next story. My friend told me about a couple who got into his car. They were slightly drunk and talking nonsense to each other, so he didn't pay them much attention. Eventually, the woman got quiet, so he checked in the mirror and didn't see her. And my innocent friend thought she was asleep, and even laughed about it with the man. Well, not long after that, he passed the speed bump and heard the man say, "Oh no." At the same time, a gurgling sound was heard, and the smell of booze and sour filled up the whole car. So yeah, the woman was sucking off the man, and the speed bump caused a deep throat and vomit all over the back seat. God damn it. Bro, what are you guys doing behind these Ubers? This is not kosher. This should not be happening behind an Uber. What the fuck? So she sat there, she's doing her deed, things are happening, mouth full of stuff. All of a sudden hit a speed bump. I said, what the fuck? My poor friend still had to drive around with a vomit-smelling car. At least they rated him 5 stars. That had to have been the best roadhead ever. It had to have been. A speed bump and just went, ah, ah. Wow, that's crazy. Where even emulating the sound is wild work. All right, next story. Not that long, I promise you. One night I was driving around a large cul-de-sac looking for a man I was supposed to pick up. When I couldn't find him, I decided to do a second round on the cul-de-sac. I got about a quarter of the way through when 2 guys emerged from the park and one of them pulled out a weapon. He asked what the hell are you doing in my neighborhood? And I decided to act really calm and just let him know that I was with Uber and I couldn't find the passenger I was looking for. Now he said, oh, you're looking for such and such. He's at the top of the cul-de-sac in the blue house. I thanked him for his help and canceled on my Uber ride. My Uber rider, absolutely not. Yeah, that's another thing too. You don't really know where these fares are coming from. They could be in some shady ass neighborhoods. Like being an Uber driver in New York City late at night is crazy work. And you can't really carry in NYC, so I don't know what you're gonna defend yourself with if it came to a point where someone's gonna try to take you out. All right, next one. I picked up a guy from a gay bar and he was noticeably coming on to me. He then confessed that he was one of the founders of a very popular gaming company and offered me $2,000 to come up to his room. Whoa, no. Whoa, ain't that much money in the world. All right. He also refused to leave my car unless I kissed his hand. Fun times. No. That would have been my last day at Uber for sure. Next story, I overheard two women talking about how they had sex with the same guy. Now, they both agreed his member was too big and that he was hurting them by lasting too long. You know what's funny about that was that I was actually going to do a story today. Today's original episode was, does size matter? Because this topic came up on quite a few of my shows in terms of whether or not size mattered to women. And what I've come to learn is that sometimes it don't. Some women like them small, some women like them big. It's user's preference, right? But damn, that's wild work. All right, next story. A few months ago, this lady came into my car while busily talking on her phone. Yeah, you can't tell anyone on the team yet. No, I haven't told anyone at all. I was secretly eavesdropping on this conversation. That's what was being said in the background. As I usually do, trying to figure out what kind of job she had. She continued, quote, these details are kind of gruesome. The poor thing was lying there for a while after it happened because there was no one around. It was only a couple of hours later someone saw and called us. She was still alive when we got there. Hey, listen, I gotta go. We'll talk more soon. We had reached her destination, church. She got out of the car with a quick thank you. So what this woman is probably describing a murder scene. And he's hearing this as he's driving, but guess where she gets dropped off at? She gets dropped off at church. Yeah, I'm almost done. I'm about to wrap this up. Looks like dinner is ready, so I'm going to just choose one more story. And this last one, I once drove two Pikachu cosplayers who were planning to beat someone up. People, you can't make that shit up. I don't know how I'd feel if I drove somebody dressed up as a big-ass Pikachu, let alone two people in my Uber talking about, they're dressed up as a Pikachu trying to beat somebody's ass. People, I'm done. I would read more stories, but this was a quick and easy. Maybe next time there'll be a part 2 to this. Some crazy Uber Lyft stories. At some point, I don't know, but tomorrow, or in this case, later on today in the US, Friday night, I'm going to be doing my 500th episode, which is, I think, my 115th live episode on TikTok. If you have a chance, you're more than likely to come by and join the show. It's usually me and my executive producers and co-hosts. We're just talking the shit, but we're going to celebrate this 500 episodes. I'll reveal what my top 10 episodes are, and we're just going to have fun. We're just going to talk a lot of shit. It's Friday like we usually do. Even though it's Friday here, when I do the show, it'll be Saturday, which will be Friday there. So, All right, anyway, thanks for joining me, everybody. Thanks for those passing by. Executive producer Captain James was on the show earlier, showing some love with some likes. I didn't get very much likes today. Actually, no, I got 3.3 thousand likes, and most of them were from him. People just ain't showing me that love like they used to. I don't know. Like, since I moved out here to Korea, getting an audience has been really, really tough, but I'm very hopeful. I mean, I made it 500 episodes even before TikTok. I think I'll be okay. Anyway, enjoy the start of your weekend. Wake up, feel refreshed, get at what you're gonna do, get into the weekend nice and safe, and join me on my next show if you do. Also, follow me on YouTube, the Daily Mind Podcast. Very easy to find. There are some episodes on there. I slowly am uploading some episodes. Some of them take a while just simply because they're big files. We're talking 2-hour shows and shit like that. It's a lot. All right, but I'm doing the best I can. And of course, follow me on Lemonade. Follow me right here on TikTok, Austin.Edwards070. Follow me on that. And hopefully I'll be seeing more of you guys on this show. If not, have a good day. And we will do this next time. Peace out. Later. Ciao.